Hello and welcome to South Bay Sports Radio. Here's your host, Nick Ingram.
Today we are recording episode 92 with Palos Verdes baseball coach Alex Morales. Coach grew up in the Hawthorne-Lawndale area, attended North High School, went to college in Missouri, a lot of different ways that his journey has taken him back to the South Bay, back to PV, the current head coach of one of the top teams in the area after a year where the Sea Kings struggled. Please welcome Alex Morales to South Bay Sports Radio.
Nick, thanks for having me. I appreciate you doing this and all the work that you do for South Bay Sports.
I appreciate you, sir. All right, before we get started, we want to shout out Barber to You, our show's sponsor. Eli Lopez and his team will take care of whatever your haircut needs are, whether you need a trim, whether you're looking for a new style, whether your beard is looking scraggly, or whether you're just looking to be a little bit more shiny for that job interview, that date, or even make sure that you feel a little bit more confident in your approach in life. Please be sure to check out Barber to You, located in Torrance, just off of PCH and Rolling Hills Way. All right, Coach, let's get started. You grew up in Hawthorne-Lawndale, you go to North, but when did you fall in love with baseball?
Ooh, fell in love with baseball. I don't know if I do love it. I would say my earliest memories of baseball are honestly it's the 1986 Mets WWOR cable box channel 20. I would be sitting in my living room listening to those broadcasts, watching that team. I was on the Little League Mets at that point, T-ball, and we were green and white, but we were the Mets. And I didn't know English, so WWOR helped me a lot in baseball, and just I loved that team. I knew the game, and I would sit there and just kinda I'd play the roles, right? I would sometimes be the catcher trying to catch Dwight Gooden and call pitches for him, and then I would just transition into the lineup, and I would do the offensive guys, and I would mimic all their lineups in front of the TV. I mean, all their batting stances in front of the TV, and pretend I was a big guy. And as the pitch is coming, decide if I was going to swing or not. And that's just kind of my first memories of it. And then kept playing and just enjoyed everything about it. The camaraderie, being with teammates and friends, and the challenge of it, of the ins and outs of the quote unquote little things that aren't a little. It just fascinated me.
There's so many nuances to the game, but do you go back and listen to that call, that Vin Scully call in game 6 where, there's a dribbler up the line and it gets through Buckner?
Yes.
How often does that kinda, like, bring back those memories for you?
I love it. That was an amazing experience, and that's probably why I've, you know, it didn't break my heart. If I'd have been a Red Sox fan, maybe I wouldn't be a baseball coach. I've gone back now with YouTube and watched that play a ton, and I'll watch the last few innings. I feel like every time I'll catch something a little bit different. It's like, "Oh, yeah." Um, I remember when I transitioning from player to coach, just kinda wondering why was Buckner still in the game and those kind of things, and the sequence of the pitching moves that were made, and those, it's just you could always go back, second guess things, and rewatch things, and it's like I'm dying to watch Game 7 of this past year's World Series again because that was just amazing.
When you watch a baseball game, are there things that you think about as a coach, like, "This is something I can work on as a team," or do you watch as more of a fan and assess your team based on what it needs instead of what you see can be worked on from a professional team?
Yeah, 100%. I catch myself too often watching it as a coach, um, either critiquing or why did he do this, or he should have done this, or this is what that play should have looked like, or whatever. I got to remind myself, hey, just enjoy it. Just stay back and enjoy this game. And you have nothing to do with it other than I'm a fan. So don't try to control or call anything. Just sit back and enjoy it. It also depends who I'm watching it with. If I'm by myself, yeah, I'm clearly thinking coach and staff. If I'm with friends, I'll try to just make sure I'm going fan. And if I'm with baseball guys and we're talking the game, we'll delve into a lot of what's going on and what might be happening next.
What little league did you play at?
Yeah, Little League is gone. It was Wilcon Little League in Hawthorne. It was Williams and Yukon together called Wilcon. We played at Jim Thorpe Park, um, Hawthorne. I think now it it's been remodeled by the Dodgers organization, and they're doing some cool things over there. I drove by it, and it looked much nicer than it had in shoot, I would say at least 20, 25 years.
Yeah, that's over
Uh,
there off of Rosecrans and Hawthorne. I know exactly where it is. My
yep,
little league's
right.
not there either, and I played at Chi Park.
Okay, yeah. So we would play Tri Park in the Tournament of Champions and All Stars, and then I think after I was gone and both were kind of struggling with numbers, they combined a year or two, and then, like you said, they folded. Funny enough, I had a little league teammate who's father of one of our players right now. He came up to me when the kid enrolled or came over, and I didn't recognize him at first. "Hey, you remember me? We played on the athletics. We were also green and white, by the way." I was like, "Oh, yeah." And now I'm coaching his kid.
That's very interesting. What's funny is I remember my first little league jerseys, and we were the Pirates, but
Yeah.
it was green and white, and then the Braves were a maroon and yellow, and the Yankees were blue and white, which, it's just the old school jerseys. It's just the jersey, but the script across the chest, and it's
Okay.
nothing. Of course, nothing in my little league experience. It was nothing close to what it is now, where you get the actual logos and the hats. Like our hats were really crummy material, so that was definitely
Yeah, we had the cheap mesh hats with the big top in the front, and then just a mesh pullover with no team name on the front, just green and white mesh pullover with the number on the back.
kind of like the bad news.
Yeah, exactly. And we probably had a coach like that too.
So you go on, you play at North Torrance High School, continue collegiately at Harbor, and then play collegiately in Missouri. But how would you describe your journey from the Lawndale Hawthorne area to North High and then playing at the next level?
Crazy, a blast, a ton of different turns, lucking into a lot of things without realizing it, making decisions that put me in good spots and had really no clue. Um, Looking back, uh, probably had a lot of adults looking after me and making sure I was taken care of without me even realizing it, whether that be my parents, or teachers, or coaches, or friends, parents type of deal. Leaving, so I was supposed to go to Lusinger. Uh, Parents were like, "No way, that's not going to happen." I was in eighth grade. It wasn't a good neighborhood. It wasn't a good area. So very easily got down a different path. Um, so they told me no, and then originally they thought I could go to El Segundo because my sister was working there. That didn't happen. I was going to go to Bishop Montgomery, couldn't work that out, and then school had started, and wasn't going to school. I was up for like 2 weeks, and then finally North High became an option. Got a permit to go there. Had an interview with the dean and stuff, and was good to go, and got in, and everyone knew everybody, and except me, I was a new guy, and it didn't bother me because I was young and I didn't know any better. So got to play there. That was okay. It was played for Dan Campbell, who was an LA Arbor guy. He went to Arkansas. He was a teacher there. He had just gotten a job my freshman year after two pretty bad losing seasons. But we weren't terribly good at that point. I think we won 2 games my freshman year, which was fine with me. I got to play a little bit of varsity as a freshman, and came back sophomore year, we won a few more games, and then just missed out on playoffs my senior year. I think we finished 15 and 14 or 14 and 13 or maybe 500, but out of playoffs, and we didn't get in at large. Went to Harbor, which was one of the best decisions of my life at that point. I think it really helped me mature and go from, and coach talk, from a boy to a man. Um, Met a lot of great people there. Went with Justin Miller, who I had been friends with growing up. He was there, had that experience, and then got to meet a bunch of guys that are still coaching in the game, like Coach Fujinaga, Coach Dillon, Coach Ollie Turner at Torrance. He was on the same team as us. So was Terry DeWan, who was the head coach at Torrance and Lawndale and Covina. A bunch of guys, and I'm forgetting some guys. D-Nick, Derek Nicholson was part of that team, who's been coaching. I think he's at Santa Barbara City College now. Um, so the whole experience was amazing, and I had already known about the Harbor ties going in, but didn't realize how impactful it was going to be while I was there. And then going out to Missouri, tiny school, never heard of it. Had a couple other opportunities, but didn't know what was real or not. And 6 of us had actually 8 of us decided to go there together. 2 ended up backing out. So 6 of us from Harbor ended up going together, which was made it a lot easier and nicer to make that happen. It was a tiny town in the middle of nowhere with just one blinking red light, and I think there was 800 people in the town without the school, maybe less. And the guy was recruiting. He was a California coach recruiting a bunch of California kids, and we went out there and had a lot of success. Both years went to the NAIA World Series. Got to play with some future big leaguers there. Adam Bonero is the first one that comes to mind. Had the teammates from down here. So it was all of it was good, and there's a ton of valuable learning experiences at all those places that while you're going through them, you're just not aware of it. But looking back, it's pretty amazing some of the things that happened, how lucky and fortunate I've been to still be around.
If you could go back and pick any time frame from your youth to kind of look at again, what is there any spot where you'd say, what, I'd like to revisit this just to enjoy it one more time? Or are you completely happy with, that whole experience?
Both. I'm completely happy with all of it. I think that 13-year-old year, 14, that whatever that is, right? For me, there was a summer where nothing mattered really except having fun, just going out, and I'd be outside playing football, two-hand touch or tackle, whatever. We'd play tackle on concrete at times, like because we were kids and there was no internet or phones. And we'd do that for hours, and then we'd just play baseball, or we'd play basketball, or play hide and go seek, or if someone's neighbors had a cousin over, we'd hang out with them, and it was just, it was a completely worry-free environment. And I, like I said, I don't necessarily wish I could go back and do it over again, but it's helped me recently in that, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? And a lot of it is out of our control, and people get really worked up about it. And I just think back to those days about, hey, I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't care, and it didn't bother me, and I was happy. And I think there's times I will choose to ignore some of the news and some of the stuff now, or I'll just take a quick glimpse and not try to get too worked up over it because it could drive someone crazy, right? And I just think about, hey, those kids at that age, they don't care, and look how happy they are. And I was just kind of throwing that back at me as an adult now, going, all right, maybe they're onto something there. Like I can get all worked up, but I don't know if it's worth it for me or for any of us really that are not in a position to actually make a difference.
Very good mentality. So you come back to the SoCal area, you attend grad school at Long Beach State, then you go up north and you get your teaching degree in Oregon. What initially went into your decision to go into the teaching field?
That's easy. I didn't. I didn't at all. Right after college, when I got my BA at Culver, Stockton, Missouri. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I came home, and my nephew was being babysat. I was babysitting my nephew, sorry, and that night, at the end of the night, his stepdad or now real dad, I guess, asked me if I wanted to work for him, and I was like, "Sure, yes, I don't know what you're doing." Tells me he was starting this internet company, blah blah blah. So I jumped on with him, and it was 3 owners, but 2 that were involved, and me, and learned a ton. We ran the company, raised a ton of money through investment, capital money, and things were really good. And it was kind of a company that was ahead of its time. And when the bubble burst, I didn't know what to do. Uh, we sold the company, give as much money as back we could to investors and stuff. And Tony Richards at North High School was looking for a pitching coach, so I jumped in with him, started talking, and he gave me an opportunity. Did it for 2 years, started subbing at North. Enjoyed it. I think if anyone that's ever subbed would tell you it's okay for a few years, but it gets pretty old pretty quick. I was already thinking about maybe going elsewhere, and then Tony Richards stepped down as a head coach, and I was given the opportunity to be the head coach in 2004 at North, which was my alma mater, and we had just had a pretty good 2 years there. So did it, loved it, and then came home one night and they couldn't hire me because we had the highly qualified teachers had to be highly qualified, and I didn't have my credential. I was making less in a month than my rent was. I just applied everywhere. I applied Alaska, Minnesota, Iowa, Oregon, everywhere. It's just anywhere. I was like, we can't stay here. Um, I just got married, and Coos Bay, Oregon, Southwestern Oregon Community College opened up. Corky Franklin's the head coach there. He interviewed me and went up, drove, checked out the area and the school, and thought, okay, I can do this, and maybe I'll sub at the high school. And then within a week or so, there was an opening for a Spanish job at the high school in Coos Bay, and I got hired as a full-time teacher there without a credential, without anything, just on the recommendation of the North High School principal and a couple other people that were on my reference list, which again goes back to what I just referenced earlier, was like you don't know who's speaking on your behalf or who's saying what, and that ultimately shaped your life without you even realizing it. Because I didn't know that that had happened until later. So they hired me there, and then in Oregon, you have to have a master's in education to get your credentials. So I went to Western Oregon while teaching and got my master's of education and my credential. Coached at the community college, Southwestern Oregon, and taught at the high school, Marshfield High School, which is the home of Steve Prefontaine. And we had kids, and all our family was down here, and it was getting a little tougher. And met with some people, and they were like, "You need to be around the family. Kids need that." And it's like, okay. So we tried to come back down here. I interviewed a bunch of places, Redondo or Maricosta. I was pretty close at Maricosta for a Spanish job. It happened, and then the Spanish teacher at PV at the time, she was a softball coach, and she left pretty late in the game. I want to say late July. I got hired in August of 2009 as a Spanish teacher and assistant coach, and I've been there. I've been teaching there since then.
Teaching and
But
coach.
but
Yes.
to go back to your original question there, I had 0 intention of ever being a teacher. I just kinda got sucked in. I knew I wanted to coach, uh, and teaching would help me do that, and I they go hand in hand, right? If you can teach, you can coach. If you can coach, you can teach. Usually, if personalities meld, and, the same sort of concept and idea, which was fine, but, um, was never my plan. I hadn't laid out ever that to be an educator at all.
So you started PV in '09. You joined the staff with Evan Fujinaga at that time. What were some early things that you saw from him that you still use today?
That's a good question. There's a lot. I think the first thing that stood out was how similar we would do things, or we ran things, and I understand that through Harbor and some of the guys that we played with and coached with, we had similar backgrounds, but it was a lot of it was the same. Terminology might have been a little bit different in some of the things, and then yeah, I learned a lot from that. It was a pretty pretty incredible staff that he had put together. He had guys that are still coaching, guys that have played professional baseball. We would always have guys coming out. So it was always, talking the game and spitballing ideas. And I remember one night just being in in the classroom talking about this first and third defense on a team that would continually use a push button in that situation and trying to get creative and outside the box. And we put the right fielder in, yes, right next to the pitcher's mound to protect, from that play happening, and, like, "This sounds crazy," and tried it out at practice the next day, those kind of things, um, and then a lot of the stuff that we still do now, are directly because of Fuge and the program. I'm a big believer in having tradition and having things that, kids will understand or players will understand that this is bigger than just this moment or this thing. There's a bunch of guys that have gone through this, and this is why we do it. And if there's pushback, we can have that conversation and we progress and change things. But if they understand where I'm coming from and why we do it, and then they buy in and we roll with it. And we still wear white pants, right? We're probably the only team that only wears white pants on the road, a man at home, and that started in 2004, had its or 2003 when the school had its first varsity season again, and we're still doing that now.
You started PV, some things happened with Fuge, and you're named the interim. Then you step away from PV, you help over at Peninsula. How tough was that time to be teaching at PV, but then you're coaching at Peninsula?
Yeah, all of it was incredibly difficult. More difficult than I think I can probably put into words from that entire, I don't know, whatever, 2013, 14 through 2016. Um, in 2016, I didn't coach, and I didn't think I'd ever coach again. I didn't enjoy the couple years before because of some of the things that were going on, and I just thought, I'm done with this." Bowles got the job at Peninsula, gave me a call, and I'm forever grateful that he did because it was an incredible team. It was a lot of fun, and the staff was, it was Brian Bowles, Derek Nicholson, Brett Mendoza, and myself on the varsity level, and then that was as much fun as I can remember having coaching in years. So I was excited. I was super excited to be back and doing it. We had a good year, did some really cool things, and then 2018 was rough. Brett Mendoza passed away, and going through that was tough on the players, tough on the coaches, and the players were a great group of kids. Not as talented as that 17 team, but I enjoyed it just as much, except for having to process the what had happened with Dozer, which still crosses my mind every single day. But that 2017 team and being out there with that group of guys is what sort of reignited the fire and the joy of coaching and being around the guys and being in baseball.
When you took the job at PV, when you came back, what was your vision for this program, knowing that they had won a CIF championship in the early years and they're continuously producing Division I talent?
Yeah, I honestly, I I didn't really think of it in those terms. I remember putting something in like a cover letter or something. I was like, "Hey, we want to be a nationally recognized program." I thought that was um, sort of a goal, but also vague enough to what does that really mean, right? And I still thought that we could be really, really good, but I didn't. My whole idea was honestly, if we can provide a worthwhile experience for all of our players that they look back on fondly and uh, do it in a sustainable fashion. That was the goal, right? And how do we do that? And how would that look? And if it was about wins and losses, that wasn't going to be it, right? And it wasn't going to be about how many guys we can move on. That was a lesson I learned at PV as well. I remember vividly thinking I used to coach, thinking everyone wanted to play college ball or pro ball, right? Every single kid wanted to do that on our team, and I remember after a not so great game, I asked the team. I was like, "How many of you guys want to play at the next level? How many of you guys even want to go to college?" And one guy raised his hand. I was like, "Oh man, I probably really need to reevaluate what I'm saying and how I'm going about coaching these guys. That's only one guy is trying to move on to the next level." And then uh, it was also about this age where I was starting to go to back to school night and teacher conferences. And it just bummed me out that, how often I would hear teachers talk about, well, when they get to high school, or when this is to get them ready for that next school year or this next level. And I was just like, who cares? Let's just get them to be the best possible kid or person at this moment right now in their life. That's what they need to be ready for, not something 5 years down the line. You can't predict where any of us would be in 5 years.
How much does this mentality shape you as a father, knowing that everything in life is going to happen, things can't be perfect? And geez, as a father myself, I kind of think about this. We're not trying to build Rome. Rome wasn't built in a day. We're just trying to get 1 inch better. We're just trying to get better today.
That's it. We're all gonna make mistakes. We're trying to get better each and every day. As I'm talking to you right now, I just got done touring the Florida Gulf Coast University with my son. I'm forever grateful to however it happened. That the relationship I have with both of my kids, like it's to me is amazing. They like talking to me. They like calling me and hanging out and those kind of things. I think a lot of it is communication, right? Communicating, making sure guys kids know why I feel the way I do and vice versa. And then, asking them, why did this happen? Or why do you think this happened? Or can you see why I thought you were upset? Right. And sometimes it's as minor as just a facial reaction, right? In a conversation. Why did you act like that? Why did you react that way? Do you not agree? And sometimes you misread it. It means like, I didn't know I reacted that way, or I didn't know I made that face. And that's true for kids and players. And I think it's as corny as it'll probably sound, it's a lot of it is love, right? You just love them, love them, love them, and understand that they're going to make mistakes. It's not intentional, it's not personal, and it's their lives, right? It's not me anymore. I can't force them to do anything or make them do anything. As much as I want them to do certain things or go in a certain direction, they can do whatever they want. I mean, we were kids, and I'm sure our parents told us not to do things that we did, and we never told them, or we did tell them later or whatever, and that still happens today. For me, it was always hoping that they would understand that I was there for them and that they could come and talk to me about anything and have that conversation. And then, like I said, with the communication aspect of it is trying to get ahead of things. I remember, when they were both about to become teenagers, going on a walk with them and telling them how they were gonna change and things that we were gonna see and deal with, and then revisiting that a couple years later, and we talked about this and this stuff with her, and, and they're not perfect angels, they've had their moments, and we got over it, we move on and we discuss them, and it's never been a threatening or anything like that. It's just, "Hey, man, it's life." You said we're all trying our best, and we're all trying to get through, things in a manner that keeps everyone happy and civilized and not being jerks.
That's the kicker right there, not being jerks. All right.
I got a friend that likes to say, "Hey, this is how you can pass, the test. If you can hang out at a happy hour and get along with people, you're probably a good person." And it's that idea though, that, like, "Hey, are you the guy that's always causing a stir or chaos, or can you just be a cool person?"
Agreed. Let's go into what's been happening recently. So last year, the team they go 10 and 18, 4 wins in league. This year's team, you're currently sitting at 8 and 4 with 4 wins in league. What's been the biggest difference between last year and this year?
The coaching, 100%. We just changed everything the way we did it. No, that was just nothing. Honestly, it's baseball. It's a weird sport. We were in a lot of games last year that could have gone either way. We had a couple things that didn't go our way and a couple injuries here and there, and just never really got on a roll like we had hoped to. There's probably a lot of reasons or excuses on why or how. I remember, as soon as that season ended, though, brought in the returning varsity guys that were, the non-seniors at that point, and had a conversation about everything, and decided that we're going to start practicing for this season right then, May 2nd or 4th or 8th, whatever that day was. And we went through all May and through graduation, which typically we don't do after the season. Um, and trying to rebuild the base. Uh, and then these guys have sort of taken it upon themselves this year, and we've been fortunate. We've gotten a couple breaks here and there, just with the same thing with our losses, right? I mean, we're a pitch away from being undefeated, or probably, and vice versa. We're probably a pitch or two away from being 2-8 or whatever it would be right now. And right now we're catching some breaks and streaks, and guys are playing well and going about things the right way. But that's a real fragile fine line, right? If we continue to just worry about wins and losses, and that's, again, it's weird to say as a coach because we're competitors and we're in a sport and you're trying to win, um, but we don't talk about winning. We don't emphasize winning. We talk about the process and doing things the right way and going about things the right way and doing things the right way. And at the end of the day, at the end of the game, take a look at the scoreboard and we'll see. And if we do the things like we can and we should be doing, scoreboard more often than not will be on our favor. But you know, uh, if we don't take advantage of certain opportunities and don't do things the way we should or know, then yeah, some of those breaks that you didn't catch, also were breaks that you didn't create or take advantage of. And right now we're doing a pretty good job of not thinking things are small. That those little things are actually big things and important things.
One of the biggest things, of course, with one of your colleagues is we try to take it one play, one practice, one play, one game at a time. How big is that Guy Gardner football program mentality helpful, especially when it comes to a sport like baseball, knowing that we're not worried about the wins and losses, but if we take care of what we know we can take care of, we're pretty confident that we're going to come out on top.
It's that's all. It's that old idea, right? Of hey, everything in the past we can't change it, and we can't control anything in the future. So let's just stay in the present and do this thing the best that we can for this moment, right? And then baseball, it's every single pitch, right? Let it go in between whatever it was before and after, and focus on this pitch. Which is incredibly difficult to do in any sport, in any aspect of life. But that's the mentality: is hey, let's win this pitch, let's compete this pitch to the best of our ability. We start our practices off with what we call get present. It's get present time where we just lay on the ground in the outfield and spread out, and we're there for anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, and it's feeling our bodies, it's getting present, it's no phones, no talking. We'll hear all the outside distractions, the noises on a campus, which I actually like because it challenges us to make sure we can maintain that focus. The first couple minutes is feeling the body and then what's good, what's not. And then the next couple minutes is letting go of everything else that's going on and getting present. And then a little bit of breath work after that. We count our breath and try to get stabilize, and then we'll stretch and throw and get into our practice routine. And the idea is twofold. And one, that they can do it in their own personal lives, but also in game, like and in game conditions when the game speeds up on you or things aren't going right, or you start looking at the on deck hitter or umpire didn't call the pitch that you thought was a strike for a strike, or vice versa as a hitter. And then just hey, get present. That's over. Nothing you can do about it. Let's breathe, refocus here, get the body right, the mind right, and attack this next pitch.
Couple years ago, you had called me and you had said, "Hey, if you get a chance, come up here. I got somebody I want to introduce you to." And I was, kind of, all right, cool, I'll make it up. And then I show up and you've got former Dodger closer Kenley Jensen on your mound, on in your bullpen throwing pitches. How did that all work out and how fun was that experience to watch somebody that you've seen close out games, that you know his story where he came up as a catcher and they transitioned him into a pitcher, but he's at your school throwing bullpens with your catchers.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal listening to you say it that way. Odd fact here is I brought up Justin Miller earlier. When Kenley got called up his rookie year, the guy that the Dodgers DFA'd was Justin Miller, who was a guy I grew up with. I was the best man at his wedding, and now he gets DFA'd. And I didn't know who Kenley was at that point. Kenley started coming out to PV in 2019, or 2020. I think it was 2019, my first year back. Him and Matt Grace, PV alum, who played with the Nationals and at UCLA. They shared the same agent. So their agent had contacted me and asked if it was okay, and I was like, sure, come on out. And did it a couple times and getting ready for spring training and stuff. And then COVID happened. And during that COVID lockdown, basically saw him just about every single day after the first 3 weeks. So things calming down a little bit, I guess. We were out there. He had nowhere to go. Right, they weren't playing, they weren't meeting, they didn't have a contract, they didn't know how they were going to handle the COVID situation. And him and a couple other guys would come out every day and got to hang out and know and talk shop and become friends with. And it's been a great experience, not just for me, but having players out there. Like, he's thrown to our guys. Van Gavel, who's having an unbelievable year right now at USC, hit a home run off him. It's fun, and they get competitive and talk. And for guys that face him or our catchers that see him, like it's an unbelievable experience. I would think as a high school kid to be able to do that, and not just with any major leaguer, but right now, borderline Hall of Famer has a decent year here, probably in right, and just listening to him and what the things that he says and how he goes about his business. And I think that was the other thing, is even when he doesn't say anything and they just watch him, his routine is very similar, and he goes through it. And a lot of guys would say, "Oh, he's out of shape," whatever. You're watching him work, you're watching him run, you're seeing him do the laps and the sprints and all that stuff. It's like, no, yeah, it's putting in his time. It's not by accident. Um, and we've had guys struggle, and pick his brain a little bit about how to deal with the struggles, not necessarily baseball specific, but again, just the mentality of how do you get over that hump. So it's been pretty cool.
That's definitely something that I try to tell my son when he's like, "Dad, I didn't do too well last night." I was like, "Well, you know, your desire is to be, to be better, right? We can't turn better overnight, but you can take something from today that you can work on, and you can work on that so that the next time you go on the mound, the next time you're at the plate, you know what you need to adjust, right? Yeah. So, I definitely I take a lot of what I've learned from all the coaches and even watching baseball myself and use that with somebody who wants to be a sponge. So it's definitely fun.
It
You
is.
talk
It's fun from this perspective, and then from their perspective, it's about picking the brain of, and I hate that term, but listening to everybody that's telling you things and figuring out what works for you. And I think any of us that have ever worked with someone would say, "Hey," or I have had a parent go, "I've told that kid 100 times that," and then he comes home and says, "You told him that." I was like, "Yeah, well, it's just a different ear. It's a different. He just heard it at a different time. He wasn't ready for the message, or he wasn't ready for that message from you." And players, especially now, right, where they can get any sort of feedback and critique from anybody, from AI and ChatGPT stuff to social media and interacting with other coaches or players or even big leaguers, right? And hearing some feedback, but not all of that is gonna be the right piece of stuff for a particular player. So getting that player to figure out what the right wording is or the right tone, who it's coming from, that's a tougher part. But getting the player to understand that they're hearing all this, and that some of it they have to ignore or push away, and other stuff they have to try out and see if it works. And when I say try out, it's not just a one-time thing, right? My that at bat, it didn't work. Well, yeah, it's not going to work maybe one at bat. And just because it works one at bat doesn't mean it's going to work every single time. It's tough, man. It's tough. It's like you mentioned. It's with the kids and with the high school players. There's changing. They're changing nonstop. Their bodies are changing physically, getting stronger, faster, or vice versa, right? It depending on their life choices, their brain, and then you throw in the teenage years and the emotions, and talk about being ready for a message. You got to massage that quite a bit.
That's definitely something he'd thrown me a pitch. I said, "Hey, we got to work on it. Your coach talked to me. He wants me to work on an off speed pitch with you." And so I showed him how to throw a changeup.
Hmm.
And he threw it once. He goes, "Dad, I don't like it." I was like, "Well, of course you don't like it. You only tried it once. Try it a couple
Yeah.
more times." And so he threw it. He maybe threw it like 5 more times, and one of them it worked. And I said, "And that's how it's supposed to look. It's supposed to slow down, look like a
Yeah.
fastball, but it's gonna slow down." And he goes, "Wow." I said, "Hey, look, I know it's not gonna change in one time. I know that, the way that you perceive what I'm saying to you and the way that your coach is gonna say it to you is gonna be 2 completely different things." So
Yep.
that's been a lot of fun.
And then that wow moment, right? When they've that realization of this is how it feels or looks or should look. That's the cool part. And then it's starting to click.
Agreed. USC's become a pipeline. You've currently got 2 guys on the USC roster with another committed to USC. How fun is, and not only USC, but how fun is it to watch the guys that you saw from freshman year, sophomore year to, starting on varsity, and now they're playing at the Division 1 level?
It's a ton of fun. It's very time consuming, man. Constantly trying to check up on these guys. And actually, we have three. We have three at SC right now. Eden Stone, again Rizzo, and Grant Gavell. Rizzo's coming off the Tommy John or the surgery that he had, and he's just starting to get back into it off the mound. Gavell and Stone's been was with them last year. He doesn't get a lot of time on the field, but they love him, and he's a great guy for them. He's catching, and he had an at bat last year. I'm hoping he gets one or two this year and enjoys this ride because they're having a great season. And Gavell, what he's doing is unbelievable. Uh, 2 or 3 time pitcher of the week already for the Big Ten, and the numbers he's putting up. And I joked with him when I had him at PV that someone's going to look at our max prep stats one day and be like, "What idiot coach only pitched you like 20 innings or whatever?" Because we didn't use him a ton on the mound. He was hurt his senior year. Um, but we had Rizzo, and we had Jack O'Connor, we had Alex Foreman, Ryan Rhodes, and all these other guys, and we play 7 inning games and 28 games in a season. It's gonna be tough to get him a ton of innings, but Gavell was an amazing competitor, is an amazing competitor, and learned that quickly his sophomore year when brought him in a 4-3 ball game. We had the lead against Costa at our place. He's a sophomore, and he goes ball one, ball two, ball three with the bases loaded, and comes back at bat to get it to 3-2. Guy fouls the ball off, and then he gets a ground ball to end the game. For a sophomore kid in that environment, it's pretty cool. And then like Ryan Anderson is another guy. He's at a D3 at Johns Hopkins, and he's 2-0 with an 0.50, and and he's dealing, and it's fun. It's fun to see these guys um, do well, and uh, just keep on playing and developing. It's been pretty cool.
My last quote unquote serious question for you. PBU's got a lot of two sport athletes, as do a lot of schools. But how fun is it to watch players like the Christian and Western Reeses on the football field and then getting to see them play baseball and bring that fire, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit less of a fire on the baseball field?
I don't know if it's much less. Those guys are ultra competitors, man. Uh, and it's just trying to redirect that energy in baseball. It's a little can't just go hit somebody, right? But they want the ball and they want to compete like very few guys do, man. But I love it. I love it. I love that our football team is as good as it is and it has been. The culture at the school is so impacted by that, right? You start a fall semester with guys doing well and excited to be at school and all those things. And then having guys too. When I got back in 19 as a head coach, I asked Gardner if he wanted to coach the lower levels with us because I wanted him to recruit some of our players to go play football. I think it's super important to get guys to do multiple things. They want to hear me for 4 years, and I don't think that we need to specialize them if they can play numerous sports. And then you can see it when they come over that they coming from a winning culture and they get it. So it's a smooth transition, and I wish more of our guys play football, because we have some physical guys that would be really good for Coach Gardner, and I love the way guys come from football over to us and ready to go and compete and understand what we're trying to do.
You may know this, but for our listeners out there, did you know that Guy Gardner was a catcher at Maricosta?
I did know that. I don't know how many people did know that, but yeah, I definitely knew that, and he's still a fan of the game, and I know he followed it closely when he over at Arizona State, and still in touch with a lot of those guys, and yeah, he's a fan. You'll see him at most of our home games and occasionally at some away games, especially the league ones.
All right, coach, that's going to end the serious part of this interview. We're going to transfer into rapid fire. So let's go ahead and take the tie off, take the hat off,
All right,
Let's go top 3 all-time baseball players.
top three all-time baseball players, as in my favorite ones or the best ever.
Your favorite ones.
My favorite ones, shoot, man. Jose Canseco, as a kid, I had posters and loved it. He was the first 40-40 man. He was Cuban. He was my guy growing up. I'll stick with that era. Greg Jeffries, the hype of him coming up. I used to love watching his at bats. I thought he was a great hitter, even though he didn't become what we thought he would become at that age, which is a joke, right? How can you say, oh, this is a future Hall of Famer? He had a great career, and I just enjoyed all of his at bats. And then, you know, my son's name is Maddox, and uh, I Greg Maddox is probably my favorite pitcher. Just watching him work and how he attacked hitters and how he went about his business, and obviously never looked super imposing or anything like that. So those would be the three I'll go with.
Somebody had said, if you were to say, put me in the box against Greg Maddux or put me in the box against Randy Johnson, which one would you pick? And the outstanding answer that I heard was Greg Maddux, because I know he's not going to throw hard, but I know that I'm not going to be scared out of my pants to stand in the box against a Randy Johnson.
Right, 100%. He might break my bat, and my hands are gonna hurt for days, and if he hits me, I'm gonna be okay. Randy, that ball being on top of you at that velocity, and especially young Randy when it was all over the place, I would want no part of that. But he effectively wild, except he was just wild at that point. Uh, no way.
Like a real life Nuke Deluche.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to sit down with anybody in history, who would it be?
Sit down with anyone in history, and that's a good one. I'm gonna go right now. Anyone in history, man. That's a long time, right? Go outside the box. I'm gonna go Marilyn Monroe. I'm gonna hang out with her. See how the bullpen treats us. We'll go out to the bullpen over in Redondo, but really it's Torrance address. Have some prime rib and some Diet Cokes or water or whatever she drinks, and listen to her tell stories.
That is an interesting pull, and I do like it. Your top 2 baseball movies.
Well, I can tell you my not top one right now. I cannot. The Natural. I don't understand why so many people love that movie. And sorry, I do understand it, but I'm not a fan of The Natural. Bull Durham. Bull Durham would be probably my favorite baseball movie. And number two, I'll go Major League. A lot of good lines, characters. They used things that were happening with real players and threw them into the movies, and it was cool. I could have done without the love story, but I get that. You gotta have that in there for the movie. But those two, I think, would be my top two.
So I'm a fan of The Natural. And the for me, it's the cinematography of it, the whole Hollywood-esque aspect of it. I didn't know that it was based on a true story, and I didn't know that, like, the stadium that they used, of course, is no longer there. It was a stadium in Buffalo. I didn't really care for the love aspect of it. Glenn Close
Yeah,
played a great part, but at the same time, for me, that's one of the first baseball movies that I remember watching,
right.
especially at my grandparents' house in Hawthorne on 135th and Roselle. So,
Oh, all right.
yeah, that one that's the reason that one's so big for me. We all dream of being that washed up old guy who, like, somehow can go out there and hit a friggin' tank shot off the scoreboard, but,
Yeah. Eh, I think part of it, I mean, the cinema, whatever you said. That aspect, I do get that. I do appreciate that. I just think at the age when I watched it, it didn't resonate with me. I didn't feel like it was a baseball movie at that time, probably because I didn't understand most of it, and just yeah, I didn't. And maybe because so many people liked it, I was just like, nope, not doing it. Maybe I need to rewatch it and maybe cut out my own Funko from a tree or something.
Yeah. Do you know which movie I think is a baseball movie, but a lot of people will tell me that I'm completely off basis?
Which one?
Hook. Just because it has baseball scenes in it, I'll say it's a baseball movie, but it's not really a baseball. I know it's not a baseball movie. I just like to mess with people.
You said Hook?
Hook with
Captain Hook, right?
Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman.
I have never seen that movie start to finish.
Interesting.
Yep, I've only seen parts of it when it was on cable or whatever, changing the channels here and there, and I've never watched the entire movie.
Well, we're gonna have to remedy that, young man. All right, moving on. Enough about our movie tastes.
Yeah.
A movie is being made about your life. Who plays Alex Morales?
Shoot, who's the most handsome actor out there right now? Timothy Chalamet or something like that? I'd go with him. I don't know. Al Pacino probably a few years ago would have been pretty good. Because he did Tony Montana. I think he could probably mimic me in some ways there. Not all of it, obviously. Um, yeah, one of those two guys is my pick right now. Brad
Timothy
Pitt
Ch-
would have been nice, but I'm not Moneyball, so
yeah, Timothy Chalamet and Al Pacino. Let's go. All right,
yeah.
last one. Your go-to South Bay eatery and your favorite dish there.
Don't know if it's my go-to, but it's what I've been craving a lot lately. So I'll go with this, and it never misses with me. It's Tom's Tacos. Love me some Tom's Tacos. I'll go with I go with a lot of different things. I'll have the bean and cheese burrito, or I'll have the burrito with the beef. But obviously, it's called Tom's Tacos, so we'll go with the two tacos, and I'll mix the beefs. Usually, I'll go one chicken, one beef. And never lettuce, no lettuce for me.
Tom's Tacos on Torrance Boulevard and Anza. I go with the
Correct.
shredded beef burrito, and I will take the chips, and I will eat half of the burrito with just the chips and the beef.
Yeah, I'll do something similar to that. I try to make my burrito explode at the bottom, and then whatever drops ends up on the chips, and I eat those after I'm done with the tortilla.
Just make sure that the box stays in your lap. That's the biggest
Yes,
thing.
yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the chips and the salsa, and they do it right because there's always enough for the next day.
Coach Alex Morales, thank you very much for joining me on South Bay Sports Radio.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me, man. It's a lot of fun.